What's been happening in your world? Oh, what happened?
As a mortgage broker, is there something that you really wish that more people knew about?
As we're coming into this climate of mortgage cliff, people coming off to fixed rates, I wish everyone knew.
Anything else that's like really blowing your mind?
We know that some lenders have a Medico policy, so it's specifically targeted for the medical professionals. Usually they have benefits. So the main benefit is...
How do you wake up every day and be motivated and do your whole work-life balance thing?
Good question. One of my priorities building this business is to have work-life balance. I've learnt work-life balance through other previous jobs. Do you have to set boundaries for yourself when you are going to be on and when you're not going to be on? You also have to make that.
Speaking about instability, you yourself being a self-employed, and is there a lot of positives or negatives with mortgage insurance?
So lender's mortgage insurance is...
Do you feel fulfillment, remembering when you were 20, when you bought your first home and now helping someone else?
When I bought my first home, there was no friends I could lean on. In terms of people who experienced it, was just my mum. Going through that and figuring it out on your own and understanding the process was a little bit daunting. And I feel like the information provided in this podcast is for general purposes only and should not be considered personal advice. Always consult with qualified professionals or experts in the relevant field for personalized advice tailored to your specific situation. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode of Catching Up with Property. Back by popular demand, we have Pauline with us.
Hi everyone, I'm back.
Everyone that's listened to the podcast has been asking me, who's that girl?
And you've said nice things, obviously.
I was like, what girl?
Me?
I'm not into girls. And today we're really lucky. We have my little baby who was on camera about 30 seconds ago.
She's camera
and that's
shy. Hey, Pixie. Good girl.
Ta-da.
So it's been a couple of weeks.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, I've launched Catching Up with Property podcast.
Yeah.
I've launched my brokerage. What's been happening in your world?
Quite a bit. I recently started working with an interior design agency called Inco Studio.
Wow.
They specialize in hospitality and retail designs, mostly cafes, bars and restaurants. So I am their new brand and business development manager. So it's been great. Just going to their office in Piedmont and expanding on their brand and bringing in new clients for them. It's actually quite busy in the hospitality industry at the moment.
Wow.
Like as you probably know, there's been so many new bar openings, new
F&Bs.
restaurant openings.
Yeah.
They say potentially we might be going into a recession and things like that, all that depressing stuff you hear on the news, but people still have to get their coffees from somewhere, right?
It's interesting you say that because they keep saying that the technicality, we're not in a recession, but we're in a per capita recession. Mm-hmm. But if you look at where we are in Sydney, if you go out on the weekends and you have your brunches, people are still out spending. But I almost feel like they're changing their buying behavior. Like they're not going to buy that item, that wanting item, but they'll focus it on maybe spending it with time and going out having food or drink.
I mean, everyone needs to eat, right? So
Yes, we know.
Yeah.
I do like to eat.
Yeah. So it's good. Like it's positive after, all the lockdowns that, Australia has experienced and all around the world. It's really a positive thing to see everyone just going out and, spending their money on food we do need to coffees.
Rein that in a little bit.
Yes, we need to rein that in and save up for that house. But no, it's been interesting. It's been a good learning curve for me as well. Now that I'm more, aware, talking to you, every week now, just about saving and, investments and
property and renting and leasing.
Renting, leasing, like there's some of the clients out there that we speak to, they obviously leasing a cafe or leasing a restaurant or potentially thinking about leasing. But there are also people who are looking to actually purchasing the cafe space or a warehouse and turning that into potential F&B. Yeah. So I never really thought of it, in that way. Obviously it's like, you lease from someone, you get the landlord approval on the design, etc. But yeah, there's like a lot of people are now thinking, if it is a good location and it's a good investment and they can get the right lender to
lend them the money.
Yeah. And prove that they have a good business plan.
And commercial is an asset class within property.
Yeah.
With usually good rental returns and good terms as well. So terms meaning, the tenant usually pays for expenses.
Yeah.
Unlike in resi where you have to pay for everything as an investor.
That's right. Yeah.
So you're working in that commercial space in retail, et cetera, et cetera. It's really interesting because a couple of weeks ago, I was actually working on a commercial deal.
Right.
Not quite retail, a little bit different. It was like a service station. I had somebody come through and they wanted to buy a service station. The process is a little bit different to getting like residential home loan.
Yeah.
So the process to get that commercial loan meant that I had to get the particulars, get the information memorandum, and then we kind of have to shop that deal around from bank to bank.
Because we're talking like, I don't know how much a petrol station would cost. Millions?
In the M's.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole different ballgame.
Different ballgame, different way to structure it. I just had to shop it around with a couple of banks, get a couple of ideas in terms of what each lender would lend up to, what the terms would be. So as in like how long would they allow them for that loan, and how we can actually service it without using their personal income. It was pretty interesting experience. So we ended up getting 4 offers and we presented them to the client, but that was really exciting.
But I guess like for you personally, did you kind of start off, UP Finance thinking you're going to cater for commercial customers as well, or mostly residential?
I absolutely thought I was just going to be playing the home lending space.
Yeah.
I never realized how wide coming out as a broker, the depth of lending there is.
Yeah.
And it's not an issue for me because I've experienced it. I've seen it before. I've worked in private banks. So you've seen these type of deals be structured. And I was a premium banker. So it's not unusual. But coming out of my last role where I was just home lending and you're just doing home lending only, coming into this space as a broker, you're like, whoa, so wide. So much you can do and so much you can help clients with. So that was pretty exciting.
No, that's good to know. Tell me more about the loans that you're writing at the moment.
Oh, yeah. So since launching, it's pretty interesting at the moment. I'm helping a client. So I talk a lot about strategy. If you're wanting to build that portfolio, you got to strategize and
think long term,
but also you need to map out your lending, right? And don't be one and done. So I've spoken about that before. So I'm actually helping this client now. So she's come to me wanting an investment property, initially just for the investment property, but through just speaking to her, we're asking her, what do you eventually want to achieve? She has a goal in terms of how many properties she wants to achieve. So we've basically mapped out this purchase, the next purchase outside of her super. She's also got a self-managed super fund. And then so we're also mapping out another purchase within the self-managed super fund. So we've basically mapped out the next 3 purchases for her. So she knows she's in the market now and she's actively looking.
And is this over like 10 years or 5 years? The 3?
She could probably execute this within the next 12 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She's in that position.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's in that position and she could probably execute this within the next 12 months, but she is actively looking for that first one now. Once that's done, we'll probably go into the self-managed super fund, buy that one in the self-managed super fund, and then maybe come back out and rebalance her portfolio and buy one back in outside of super. Yeah, so that was really, really interesting because it's exactly what I preach, and I'm getting the opportunity to flex.
Yeah, and actually execute it.
Yeah.
Is that quite common? Do you come across a lot of people with the self-managed super funds, or like would you get a self-managed super fund? Is it?
Without giving advice, there's a time and space for a self-managed super fund. Self-managed super fund means you are creating your own super fund to manage your own investment. And there's absolutely a time and place for everyone for that.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not for everyone as well. And depending on what type of assets you want. For me, if I was to do it in a self-managed super fund for myself, I would probably be looking at high cash flow properties. So things like commercial real estate or NDIS or co-living space, something that's got high cash flow and it can just kind of be like a sit and forget. In an SMSF, the loans there, you can't leverage. So unlike outside of SMSF, if you build up the equity, you can draw that equity out and then use that as a deposit to purchase your next one. In an SMSF, once you get a loan, that's your loan, you pay it down and you can't leverage it back up. You can't reborrow it. It just has to pay down. It has to diminish. So different styles, different asset types.
Yeah. Any other ones?
Yeah. I'm working with another client at the moment. She's got a few properties at the moment too. She's come through. She wants to buy a third one.
Yeah.
So just mapping that one out. And with her lending at the moment, if she was to stay where she was, she probably wouldn't be able to borrow much more.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of restructure that. So we probably need to restructure the debt so that she can borrow more for this third property. Yeah. So we're doing some restructuring there. Talking about SMSF. So I had another customer come through and they wanted to buy commercial in the SMSF. So that's pretty exciting as well.
Yeah.
And then what else do I have?
What's their goal with that though? With the commercial? Lease it out or?
Yeah, just long-term lease.
Something. Yeah.
Long-term lease, high cash flow.
Yeah.
And it'll just pay down that loan over time. And the idea is by retirement, you'll have it paid out and you'll have a high cash flow asset that's probably unencumbered or near unencumbered, and you can kind of sit on that rental return. Yeah, that's the idea. And then what else do we have? Have a doctor that came through. That was exciting.
What kind of doctor?
A psychiatrist.
Right.
Yeah. And he's just looking at buying his own home. Things happened in his life. So going back to the drawing board and just buying his own occupied. So that's pretty exciting as well.
So you've got a good mix of
It is a mixed
clients
bag.
in the bag. Yeah.
I thought I was going to come into this business and just do home loans.
Yeah. Like the traditional.
Yeah. But I'm realizing, hey, I can do everything.
Yeah. Well, you can.
Yeah.
People obviously know that now. That's cool. So I know you've been out in the world hustling hard and, meeting new people. Have you met anyone interesting that you want to share with us?
Anyone new that I've met? So I think in this journey of opening your own business, there's a bit of connecting, hustling. And if you've watched the previous episodes, there's Lorna Wang, she's the buyer's agent. So connected with her. If you watched the other episode, there's Adam Bowie, who is from TW Property Projects. So connected with him, and their business model is to capitalize or maximize the value in your home. So it was pretty exciting. Lorna is buyer's agent backed by InvestorKit. And InvestorKit was buyer's agent of the year. And best thing is we all get along. So that was like a bonus.
Yeah. And you're learning from each other.
Sharing notes.
Yeah.
And also just connecting with other people. I've connected with a financial planner, may have him on later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's been pretty fun connecting with new people in the industry. When you're working in corporate, you don't have that opportunity too much because you're kind of desk bound. You got to do your job. Blah,
yeah,
blah.
I guess, in an office or where you were working before, it's more linear, right? You just
exactly. Do this,
your job,
do that.
reach that goal.
Process center. Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. So with the 4 clients that you spoke about earlier, how have they, is that word of mouth, referrals?
Yeah, 100%.
I know you're getting a few hits, through your social media and your podcast already.
Yeah. So a lot of businesses coming up, all of them have been just referrals.
Yeah.
So it's just people just passing my contact around. So I've been pretty fortunate and grateful that that's happening. I did get my first inquiry on Facebook.
Ooh.
And that was somebody not within our group.
Yeah.
And somebody reached out to me on Facebook and I was like, oh wow, this stuff works. So I spoke to her. The intention was to help her son buy his first home. So we'll revisit that today and just see where they're sitting with that.
That's exciting.
It's really exciting.
Do you feel satisfaction, fulfillment, remembering when you were 20, 21, when you bought your first home and now helping someone else?
100%.
At that age, buying their first home?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I bought my first home, there was not many people that have bought a home, especially in our group, right? I don't think anybody had bought a home at that time. So there was no friends I could lean on. In terms of people with experience, it was just my mum. Don't want to ask mum for advice. It may be right, but it's tough.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Going through that and figuring it out on your own and understanding the process was a little bit daunting. And I feel like doing what I do, it's almost like a responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, you got to help guide the first home buyers. Some people say, oh, you know, first home buyers take up more time, but they take up more time because they're curious and they want to know.
Yeah,
and
they want to learn.
And in the industry, like when you buy your first home, there's, you know, like 3 professionals that you're going to need. You're going to need your finance person.
Yeah.
You're going to need the real estate agent, right? And you're going to need a lawyer. But which one actually sits there and goes through the whole process with you?
You.
Exactly. The finance person, right? So it's almost like our responsibility to educate and help you, guide you through that process.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It takes more time, but it's absolutely more rewarding.
Yeah.
Because you're setting them up basically. And if you give them the wrong advice or if you're telling them the wrong things, you know, in 3-5 years, they're probably not going to be set up to maybe leverage off that equity and then buy that investment.
Outcome, you know, investing that money.
Yeah.
That's good. Good on you. And so I'm guessing there's no regrets, you know, you leaving the banking world and doing your own thing now?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I think I'm really loving it. I think,
can tell this way.
It's like
you're
glow.
very passionate.
Yeah.
Did you say you're glowing?
I'm glowing. Yeah. Okay. I'm glowing inside and out.
Your words, not mine. You are looking very tanned though.
I am. Is it like chocolate or tan?
No, like a nice, let's use the word glow. You've learned a lot since you've started. You've met a lot of people. They've taught you things. You've taught them things. You've definitely taught me.
Mortgage Cliff.
Mortgage prison. SMSF. I bet a lot of people didn't know what that acronym stood for. Everyone in the room is like, everyone knows. But anything else that's like really blown your mind that you've learned, that you've spoken to people with?
Yeah, so like coming into this place, we know that as lenders, some lenders have a Medico policy. So it's specifically targeted for the medical professionals.
Right. Usually
they have benefits. So the main benefit is no lender's mortgage insurance up to, and what I discovered, up to 95% now. So that's pretty amazing. Other things is like emergency services workers, you know, they're normally on shift work. And so we account for 100% of their income.
Right.
And different lenders have different target audiences. So there could be a lender there for casual workers where, you know, they don't mind if they're working 2 or 3 jobs and they'll take it all into account.
Yeah.
Whereas other lenders will be like, oh, hold on a minute, maybe just one, and you need to be in there in 6 months.
Yeah.
But we also need to see we also need to see last year's payment summary to make sure that you're actually going to make that money this year, because they're casual, right?
Like a stable source of income.
Whereas there might be another lender that would look at it and assess it differently. And definitely self-employed. Self-employed is really, really interesting. The amount of lenders that will target it with different policies compared to your stock standard 2 years financials has been pretty much an eye-opener for me.
And speaking about instability and all that, you know, you yourself being a self-employed, and, you know, is there a lot of positives or negatives with mortgage insurance? Mortgage
insurance. So lender's mortgage insurance is when you're buying a home, whether it's investment or your own home. So banks typically will lend you up to 80% of the value of that home. If you don't have 20% deposit, you can go into mortgage insurance. And if you pay the mortgage insurance, then you can borrow more.
Yeah.
Now, that mortgage insurance is not to protect you as the customer, it's to protect the bank.
Yes.
In the event if you default or you bankrupt, right? And the process there is if you do go bankrupt or default, the mortgage insurer will pay back the bank, but the insurer will then come and try to sort it out with you. Now, that's a cost. Obviously, if you're buying your own home, if you need it, some investors might prefer to use it because they can borrow more. They can go up to 90% with no LMI, 90% with LMI, which means they can borrow more. They need less of a deposit to get into that deal, but definitely for Medico. So doctors, dentists, psychiatrists, radiologists, you know, pharmacists, optometrists, you know, that type of profession, they can go up to 95% with no LMI. It's pretty amazing. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I didn't even get it as a banker. I was like, what?
You're going to switch industries now.
What ailment do you have, Pauline? Tell me.
We don't have enough time. So as a mortgage broker, is there something that you really wish that more people knew about?
Oh, yeah.
Share.
I think the number one thing is, as we're coming into this climate of mortgage cliff, people coming off the fixed rates, I wish everyone knew to call their bank and reprice their loans.
Refinance.
Well, not refinance, but just reprice your loan.
Yeah.
Tell your bank that, hey, I'm coming off my fix, and just see if they'll come to the party and look after you. Yeah. Like you did it recently.
Yeah.
I helped another customer who was referred to me. She had a small loan and she asked me, oh, can you do something better on this? And I did call the BDM for that brand and say, what can we do? And the advice was just call the call center. She did, and she got a pretty good rate. Yeah. And it saved her a lot of heartache. Doing the refinancing, doing the docs, etc. It's probably not something I should be saying as a broker, because that's probably our main source of business from refinances. Yeah. But at the same time, if you don't need to move, why move?
Yeah, that's true.
But if the banks aren't looking after you, if your bank is not coming to the party, and if they're not looking after you, not repricing it for you, then yeah, absolutely. Go to your finance person and get them to help you move it. Why would you give them the loyalty? You'll be paying loyalty tax.
Because I'm assuming most banks, correct me if I'm wrong, will, tell you or send you an email or something when your fixed loan is about to end.
Yeah, usually
like a bit of a push, like a reminder.
Yeah, usually they send you like one letter. They might send you a text and say, hey, it's coming up. Yeah. And that's about it. Yeah. And I think it's intentional, right? Mm-hmm. They kind of want you to roll off and forget about it. Yeah. And then you go, 3 months later, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, I really should have called.
My interest rate is like 7%. Oh, what happened?
That's a very good tip. Anything else
that's my number one tip.
Number one, yeah.
That's my absolute number one tip. My number two tip is, if you're buying or if you're refinancing, I've said this before, just make sure you get your finances ready. Because if you have to go through that mortgage process, the banks are going to be looking at your expenses, your buying behaviors, right? And they're going to want to make sure that you are living within your means and you're not overspending. Yeah. You might have to consider some credit cards being closed, No
champagne brunches every weekend. I've never actually been to a champagne brunch. Invite me.
I saw this restaurant, Hojak, in Town Hall. They do one.
Oh, really?
With
cocktails. A Malaysian place?
Yeah. I think it's like $50 a head. Like, anybody want to join? We can do a catching up with property meetup. Yeah. At your own expense.
I was going to say, who's buying? That's a really good update. Anything personal you want to share with us? I think last time I spoke to you, you were mentioning that you may be getting some good news around your birthday regarding your property.
The
council.
DA, yeah. The DA with the country property. Yeah. It's still going through the process. I haven't heard back from them. Yeah. And town planners is like, you got to be careful. You don't want to prod them. Yeah. Because they could turn around and just go, okay, well, it's not ready. So can you just get this report and this report and this report as well? Right. And we've already been through that process about 3 or 4 times. Yeah. And I'm like, oh.
So it's a waiting game.
It's a waiting game. Yeah. But I think I will probably tap them on the shoulder soon, because it's been a while.
How many months has it been now?
I think we started this process maybe at least over 12 months, maybe closer to 18 months. Yeah. But it's a lot of back and forth. Yeah. We submitted, they said, no, we need you to do this. We got those. We resubmitted. Then they said, no, we want you to get these reports. So then we got these reports, and then we resubmitted, and that's where we're at. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot. Well, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. We get the DA. Yeah. By my birthday.
By your birthday. Then we can go out and have that champagne brunch.
Hojak.
What does the future look like for you now that we're getting closer to the end of the year? UP Finance is how many months old?
Still a bit bare.
Still a bebe.
Still a bit bare.
Yeah.
What does the future look like? I think the future, we're just going to double down on what we're doing. Our goal for UP Finance is to help more customers buy their properties and help them grow their portfolios, help them strategize their property plan, basically.
Yeah.
On a personal front, definitely the DA. That's getting that DA is probably the main goal. If we get it, then I'll be looking at maybe flipping that property and maybe swapping that security out for another property that's probably within that same price range in maybe a growth area.
Okay. Yeah. So you're thinking, about the next one already.
The technicality here is I am self-employed, so I probably can't borrow until I've actually done 1 year's tax returns or 2 years tax returns.
Yeah.
But what I'm thinking of doing is swapping the security out. So I'm going to sell that. I'm going to buy another one, keep the loan and swap it out. Do that. And I think that will set us up for the next one after that. And then Penrith is still there and I'll be deciding what to do with Penrith maybe next year.
Yeah.
I just want to see what's happening with local planning laws. I'm seeing a lot of buzz from the community pushing councils and government to maybe build a policy for the missing middle piece. Do you know what that is?
No.
The missing middle piece. So it's basically, if you go around Sydney, there's no new townhouses, no villas, no new flats, like the Art Deco flats. They're all gone.
Yeah.
There's no new ones, right?
Apartment.
And so we have a rental crisis at the moment, right? And a living crisis at the moment. So there's a lot of buzz at the moment coming from academics, from developers, builders, from the community saying, hey, this type of style of building is no longer available. We're not building them. But if we built them, if we did infill development, this could potentially sort out our rental crisis.
Right. Okay.
So watch and see at the moment, and potentially maybe I can get those townhouses back on Penrith.
Yeah, which was your original.
Which was my original plan. So I think I need to learn some patience. So I think that's the future for me at the moment. Double down on business, DA, and a watch and see.
That's awesome. Just going up and up.
Up and up and up.
I know you're really passionate. You're, telling us that you want to help people, which is great. And unlike most mortgage brokers that I've dealt with in the past, that you really want to educate people. How do you wake up every day and be motivated and do your whole work-life balance thing? Because I'm assuming people just call you any time of the day after they finish work, on the weekends when they're sitting in front of the computer and checking their budget, how much they're spending. How do you deal with that and not burn out and be one of those people that, you hear about, mortgage burnout and just pulling their hair out? And
yeah, good question. I came from an industry where it was pretty much, it was like work. Yeah. It wasn't like work-life play. It was like just work. One of my priorities building this business is to have work-life balance. Yeah. And I've learned work-life balance through other previous jobs. So like when I was a relationship manager or when I was in private, do you have to set boundaries for yourself? Yeah. When you are going to be on and when you're not going to be on. You also have to make that known to your clients. Yeah. And now saying that doesn't mean I'm not going to take that client or I'm not going to take that call. I will take that call. Yeah. But there's boundaries when you take calls. There's boundaries when you respond to your clients. And sometimes it's urgent. So it's not a one size fits all. Like I set these boundaries and you have to, I just don't pick up the phone. It's, when it's urgent, when you need to be on, when you need to speak to a customer on the weekend. And I think Jeff Bezos puts it best. He doesn't believe in work-life balance. He thinks work-life balance is terrible, and everybody's probably thinking, oh well, he's the owner of Amazon. It's easy for him to say, but he believes in work-life integration, which means yes, you can have a late breakfast with your family, but it might mean you have to jump on a video conference straight after. Yeah. It might mean, hey, you can go have lunch with your friends, but it might mean straight after that, you have to go do a meeting. Or it might mean, hey, you need to go out for a business function in the evening and have a drink with a client or with a potential business partner, right? But you can get back home and put the kids in bed. It's work-life integration. And I think when you're running your own business, it's very, very much work-life integration. Yeah. But you also need to put in your boundaries of when you actually respond to your clients or the business needs.
Yeah.
And then also be mindful of your own energy. So I'm always big about energy. If you're feeling down, if you're feeling, like this is sucking out of you, then you've got to know what re-energizes you, right? So, and that's really personal for each person. So everybody's going to be different. For me, it's very simple. Like I can just take Pixie to the park. We can go for a nice walk. There's green, there's trees, there's water. Take a breath and get back to work. And that would re-energize me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody's different, but I believe in work-life integration.
Yeah, that's good. It's a good way of putting it, actually. You should start a podcast.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Catching Up with Property with my friend Pauline. If you loved this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps build the channel, and share it with other people as well. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.